All right, so today we're going to break down a system that's really for a very specific kind of person. You know the type. You're incredibly capable, you're driven, but you just feel like you're running in place. Well, it's called the Clarity Framework, and it's all about this huge shift from just, trying harder to actually building smarter. Okay, let's dive right in.
You're not stuck. You're overloaded. This quote just gets right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It's such a powerful distinction. That feeling of being stuck, it's usually not about a lack of ability or, a lack of ambition. It's really about being crushed under the weight of just too much. Too many inputs, too many tasks, too many decisions. It's a capacity issue, not some kind of character flaw. Okay, so this brings us to a specific idea in the framework, a persona they call the overloaded achiever. Let's really dig into who this person is, because I have a feeling you might just see a little bit of yourself in this description. Yeah, this is for the person who gets things done. You're competent, you're totally driven, but does your brain ever feel like a web browser with like 100 tabs open at once? That mental weight, that cognitive load, it just slows you down, right? It makes even the simplest things feel like this monumental effort. Does that sound familiar at all?
So here's the next piece of the puzzle. We often try to power through that feeling of overload with just willpower, right? Or a sudden burst of motivation. But what happens when that motivation, poof, just runs out? Because it always does.
And this is what's so interesting about the diagnosis here. For the overloaded achiever, the problem isn't a lack of knowledge. Come on, you've probably read all the books, listened to all the advice, you know what to do. The real gnawing challenge is just maintaining your own high standards, day in, day out, especially when you're tired or you're under a ton of pressure.
And these comparison just lays it all out so clearly. You've got two ways to operate. On one side, you're relying on pure, raw effort and motivation. Just picture someone pushing a giant boulder up a hill. Sure, it's heroic, but man, is it exhausting, and it's the first thing to crack under pressure. It's what leads to that super frustrating boom and bust cycle. But then, on the other side, you've got the alternative, relying on structure and standards. This is like building a sturdy bridge. The structure itself does the heavy lifting. It supports you, it gives you consistency, and it just drastically cuts down on the mental energy you have to waste on every single little decision.
Okay, so if the big problem is inconsistent execution, that's just fueled by unreliable motivation, then the solution has to be a system-first approach. It's about a fundamental shift in how you play the game, moving away from just trying harder and toward strategically building smarter. And that brings us to the definition of the Clarity Framework itself. At its core, it's a system designed to do one main thing: help capable people like you operate with total clarity, especially when the pressure is on. And it does this by building a foundation of focus, setting up clear standards, and then just enabling consistent execution. And here's the kicker: it works regardless of how you feel on any given day.
And really, if you're going to take one thing away, it's this. This quote is the mantra for the whole philosophy: to replace effort with structure and motivation with standards. Look, it's not about getting rid of effort or motivation. Those are awesome when you have them. It's about not having to depend on them. Because when you have structure, the right thing to do suddenly becomes the easy thing to do. And when you have standards, you've got a baseline for performance that doesn't just disappear with a fleeting moment of inspiration.
All right, so now that we've got the philosophy down, let's get really specific. Who is this actually for? Because it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. The framework is super clear about the types of people who are going to get the most out of this approach. So just take a second and look at this list. Does any of this resonate with you? Are you a high performer who's constantly juggling intense pressure? Maybe you're a builder, a leader, or a creator just trying to keep all the plates spinning. Or hey, maybe you're someone who executes, and you execute powerfully, but it comes in these unpredictable bursts. Are you kind of past that phase of just collecting self-help ideas, and you're genuinely ready to apply something? And this is a big one. Are you focused on long-term alignment, not just the next trendy productivity hack? If you're sitting there nodding your head to any of this, then yeah, this system is aimed right at you.
So if you do see yourself in one of those profiles, you're probably asking, okay, so how does this actually help me build something that lasts? And that brings us to a super important idea: durability. Because look, any system can work when life is calm and everything's going according to plan. The real test is what happens when things get messy.
And this really speaks to a frustration I think we've all felt, right? How many of us have tried to set up some perfect, pristine system only to watch it completely fall apart the second a real-life challenge hits? A big deadline at work, a kid gets sick, a personal crisis. Poof, the system is gone. Well, this framework is actually engineered with that reality baked right into its DNA. Which leads to another key point. The goal here is to build an environment for yourself that's designed for consistency. It's about moving away from just endlessly consuming ideas and content, and instead actively building a personal system that produces reliable, consistent results. It's about the doing, not just the knowing.
So, what's the ultimate takeaway here? What's the end game? If you actually put this system-first approach into practice, what's the big change you can expect to see? Well, it all boils down to one single, really powerful concept.
And here it is. The core promise is simple: to enable capable people to operate clearly and with intention, even when they're under pressure. It's about finally closing that gap between your potential, what you know you can do, and your actual day-to-day performance.
So, we'll leave you with this final question to think about. We're all taught to value hustle, grit, and just raw effort above everything else. But what if your greatest asset isn't your effort, but your structure? What if the real game changer isn't just about trying harder, but about building smarter? And what if the most valuable thing you could ever build isn't your next project, but a personal structure that allows you to execute with excellence, consistently, for the long haul?